All right, and we are live. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. This is episode number 47 of Calibrated with Scott. Live? Yeah, this is episode number 47 of Calibrated with Scott live. Just waiting for everybody to file in, get in here. Hopefully everybody's doing good today. We have some major updates on the map. We're going to talk about the map for quite a bit of time today because there are some things happening, a lot's moving. We've seen probably more progress from the Russians than we've seen at any time since 2022 recently. Things are moving fast. So let's see. Hopefully everybody's doing good. Just waiting for everybody to get in here and then we'll get right into it. It's been an interesting Monday to say the least. I didn't do a live stream this weekend because I was very under the weather with allergies, man. I just couldn't. If I was just sneezing and I would have just been sitting here, my eyes would have looked red. It would have been funny, but it wouldn't have been a very good show. So sorry about no shows this weekend, but I woke up today and my allergies were just gone. So everything is Gucci. All right. We got enough people in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do like my little intro thing. Hi, guys. We got a lot to talk about today. A pretty big Russian breakthrough, in fact, so stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about the Ukraine aid funding bill that just passed in the Senate or in the House of Representatives, sorry. And we have some articles that we're going to talk about today and some updates. But if you guys would like to support me, if you guys find my live streams and my posting informative, if it helps you stay up to date, and you would wish to support me, the easiest way you can do that is just by liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel and following me on my Twitter and Telegram. You can find those all in the description of the YouTube video. I did put them in there. I've been trying to do better with that. I know that's something that you guys talk about frequently, so I'm trying to get better at that. And also, if you'll see in there, there's a link to my Patreon. If you guys want to financially support me, the easiest ways you can do that is through super chats. If you ask a question on here, I will answer it. Or you could subscribe to my Patreon, and that is a way that you can support me in my endeavor to bring you guys all the accurate information on the war in Ukraine. All right. Without further ado, let's get into it. We are going to. Oh, wait. I have to just do this. All right. Here's the map. Actually, let's go full screen. You guys don't need to see me. I'm just kind of an idiot. So, all right. So, starting off, obviously, you guys know this is Ukraine, right? Zooming in. We're going to start in the southern area, Vuhledar, Novomihailovka, Konstantinivka area, a very important section of the front, and one of the areas where I think the Russians will be undertaking multiple offensive operations to capture a lot of this territory. We have a very major update. The entirety of Novomihailovka has been captured by the Russians. This ends a long battle. This is long overdue for the Russians. They've been fighting here for a long time. It's been bloody. They've lost a good number of armored vehicles in this area, but this town is of vital importance to both sides. Basically, this was the last stand before the Russians reached Konstantinivka. Once they reach Konstantinivka, supply to this entire southern front right here becomes much more difficult. This is a huge staging area, a huge logistics hub, and once it's gone, Vuhledar becomes much more difficult to hold. Vadian becomes much more difficult to hold. Holding the mine becomes much more difficult. Basically, everything on this side of the 0532 will likely be captured, and the Russians will advance the line all the way up to this highway, gain access to this highway, and once the Russians have access to this highway, operations in this direction become much easier. If you look back here, I think the closest major road is all the way back here. So is this a railroad or is this a road? No, this is a road. Okay, so back here. So the issues that the Ukrainians and the Russians have, you can see, is there's not a ton of interstate systems in Ukraine that allow for a lot of mobility, right? It's a lot of fields and it's a lot of dirt roads and unpaved, side roads and stuff like that. So it's just the few roads are so vital. and you can see how the Russians want to capture coming south from Pobyeta, the 0532, and pushing in from Novomihailovka, capture Pereskovivka, and then move on to Konstantinivka. Major update: the Battle of Novomihailovka is now over. The battle for Pereskovivka has likely begun, as well as this area, which is a high ground. Once this high ground is captured, Konstantinivka will fall in short order, and this entire southern front will begin to get rolled up. I've talked about this. I talked about this in one of my recent videos where I said that the Russians want this area right down here is just ripe for a Russian offensive. It doesn't have the strongest fortifications, and it's very open. So once the Russians break through, there's not a lot of like urban settlement that is going to really slow and grind down the Russians like you would see over here in the Slavyansk-Kramatorsk urban conglomerate. So, down here, there's just not as much. If the Russians get through, the Ukrainians do not have trench fortifications through these fields, right? There's not these like layered defenses up through here like we saw in Zaporozhye. There's not much back here. All the Russians have to do is get through Vuhledar, which is a nightmare. It's a monster to get through, right? For the Russians, they're bombing it. They're trying to cut off its supply, but it has been a thorn in the Russian side for a very, very long time in this campaign. Once this falls, once this set of fortifications right here falls, all of this is much less properly defended, much less connected, and the Russians should be able to just kind of leapfrog through these settlements and push their way up towards Pokrovsk from the south. Again, I think Pokrovsk is going to be one of the major goals of the Russian offensive. You can see how they're moving in every direction down here in the right way for Pokrovsk, and with an update we're going to talk about, that even becomes more likely. So we got a question. Did you see the Ukrainian flag waving chants in Congress? Yeah, I'm going to talk about it. Don't worry. When we get to the bill stuff, I'm going to talk about it. All right. Okay, zooming in. I don't know if I talked about this update on my last episode, but the area north of Pobyeta has been captured. This was just basically a salient that the Ukrainians were trying to hold. They had some fortifications in here. It is along this highway, so this is beneficial for the Russians. It also secures the flank of Pobyeta, so now keep supplying Pobyeta and getting manpower down here to begin pushing on Konstantinivka becomes much, much more easy. The Ukrainians have basically been nonstop counterattacking here since they lost Pobyeta. Pobyeta is very, very important, and the Russians continue to hold it. So this is another large update. I think I might have covered this one last time, but I'm not sure. And then we have a small update in Krasnohorivka, where the Russians have pushed in through this. I don't even know what this would be called. It's like nothing. It's like empty lots, basically. And we also have rumors that the Russians have sent DRGs into the industrial plants. So we could be seeing more progress from this southern sector, especially considering how weak the AFU looks right now. And we'll get into that up north a little bit. When we come up here, remember I had this salient. I'm just going to move this real fast. I had this salient. This was the salient. It was in purple. The Russians had progressed down here, and it was only a matter of time until this fell. Now it has fallen, and that is a significant gain for the Russians. It significantly improves their defensive positions around Pervomaisky, means that Pervomaisky is likely not going to be counterattacked and recaptured at any time. And it also means that the Russians now have a straight shot into Novelske, and they can begin attacks from the north down on Krasnohorivka. Sorry, not Konstantinivka, Krasnohorivka. Too many town names, guys. I just look at towns all day. All right. And here is the big update for today. The Russians have likely, I'm going to say likely, guys. I don't have an exact geolocations on the outside of town out here. So I'm actually going to change this just for now, just so it's not misleading. I did this very short, very quick before the video started because this update was new. But I'm going to just change this just a little bit just because I don't have knowledge of every single area. However, I do know that the Russian flag was raised right in this area at the Capitol or at the city council building in Ocheretnye. So this town is likely captured. The video showed Russians standing out in the open. There were 9 of them. They were cheering, celebrating, distant artillery and gunfire, but nothing that sounded particularly close. They didn't appear to be in any danger. So it is likely that all of Ocheretnye has been captured now. And this is just horrible. This is the worst development that has happened to the Ukrainians. I think this development is worse than when Avdiivka was collapsing and then they ended up getting routed out of this area. This right here is a much, much, much more significant event and a much worse event for the Ukrainians. This is nightmare fuel right now. If you're a pro-Ukrainian, you should be very, very, very concerned about what's going on in this town. And I'll talk about it in just a second. I don't know, dude. I don't know why I'm so handsome. My mom just made me that way. Appreciate your dono, man. Let's go back to the map real fast. All right. So the primary reason I want to actually talk about this area and why it's so important is because of the topography. Remember, guys, what do I always say? If you want to know the Russian plan, follow the topographical maps because the Russians just follow them. And you can see that's exactly what's happening. The Russians progressed out of Krasnohorivka over here. The other one, the littler one north of Avdiivka, pushed along the railroad right here and the railroad right here. This is that little triangle area. Have pushed up into this dacha area, also on the high ground. Important heights being taken here. And then the Russians progressed into the town itself, captured this southern sector. And then, as it so happens, at the time of this Russian attack, guys, the 115th Mechanized Brigade was coming in to rotate the 47th Mechanized Brigade, who has seen combat basically for the last year. The 47th Mechanized Brigade has been beaten up, right? They had the Leopards. They got rocked in the summer counteroffensive. Then they were transferred to, I believe, Bakhmut. And then after Bakhmut, they were transferred to Avdiivka to stem the tide. And they've been fighting around Avdiivka since, I think, before February, January-ish time period. So the 47th has gotten beat up. They've been basically backfilled with conscripts, like green guys, just to fill the ranks, try to keep the brigade combat capable. And when the 115th came in to provide rotation for these guys, the Russians launched their attack and the 115th Mechanized Brigade just ran from their positions. This was undoubtedly the most significant collapse of this conflict for Ukraine that I have seen so far. And it is specifically significant because there is no reason Ukraine should be losing this town. This is, I mean, if you look at a topographical map, which is super important in Ukraine, because if you have the high ground, you have the line of sight on everybody. You have vision. It's so flat and open that whoever controls the high ground has all of the reconnaissance abilities and all of the artillery advantages and everything. So high ground is of utmost importance. You can fire ATGMs out in every direction. This, if you look at this map, this is the only high ground in the whole area. That map is a little deceiving. Hold on. There we go. This, when you zoom out, the elevation changes so that the colors get less spread out. But when you zoom in, you can really tell the difference between the colors. That's how these maps work. So here you can see that this is the important high ground right here. Once this is captured, the Russians will have a much easier time pushing down into the lines of defense to the south, into these lines of defense up into the north, and just out over towards Pokrovsk, which I have said the entire time is the major goal of this entire southern operation. If Pokrovsk can be captured, it will be like having an Izium in the south. And the Russians will be able to use that to begin operations. Here, I'll show you on the other map. Sorry, guys, switching around. Right here. Well, if the Russians are able to come out and capture Pokrovsk, right? I'm just going to do this just so it kind of shows. Oh, it's a line. Oops. Oh, well. So if the Russians come out and control Pokrovsk, look at where it positions them behind the Ukrainian defenses here. They have roads that lead behind Konstantinivka. They will be able to push Donetsk and New York without a frontal attack, which is just a nightmare. It's like Avdiivka. It's very built up defenses. They'll be able to get behind New York and Donetsk and force this to be abandoned, the same way they did with Avdiivka. And then from there, progress up behind Konstantinivka. Basically, you can just get behind the supply back here and disrupt all of this fighting, and then the frontal attacks become much, much, much more beneficial, right? The chance of success increases dramatically. So I think that this will be the goal. I think at the same time you will see an operation from the north towards Kharkov. I don't know if it's the actual city is going to be the goal. I just mean the region, this region up here, this Sumy Kharkov region. It has been getting absolutely beat up. We're going to talk about some events that have happened in Kharkov and the reason why I believe this is going to happen. I do not know if this is going to be the primary focus of an offensive. I do not know if it's going to be, I'm not saying that the Russians are going to push for Kharkov. It's not. Kharkov is symbolic, but it's not, the goal. The goal, I believe the goal would be come in through the north, create a situation up here it's not acceptable for Kiev, right? Create a situation where the propaganda is looking so bad that you're losing territory to the Russians in these regions where you had recently fought them out of. I put that in air quotes because we all know that the Russians just withdrew from the north. They weren't beat out of this area. The Kharkov region they were, but not up here in the north. And so it's just, if the Russians can come in, force Ukrainian reserves to be committed up here in the north, completely on the opposite side of the battlefield from where they want to be fighting, which is in their thick defenses down here, fight up here, force the Ukrainians to come up, spread out this exhausted and depleted Ukrainian army more than they already are, and then begin your operation for Pokrovsk, and likely begin your operation towards Chasiv Yar because you want to keep pressure on the front of the line as well while you're trying to get behind the line. We could see something even smaller, potentially just over in this area of Kharkov, coming down to the Oskal, recapturing Kupiansk, and then moving down towards Izium. That's also a possibility. But I think if the Russians enter over here, even if it's not a huge commitment, just enough to force the Ukrainians to move, 3 or 4 or 5 brigades up into this region to stem the Russian advance. That's all you need. You don't even need to capture any of the cities. You just need to enter, make it a PR nightmare for the Ukrainians, and then seize on that opportunity here in the more strongly defended area of the line. All right, got some super stickers. Thank you, Reno202 for your super sticker, and thank you, Your Fave, for the super sticker. I appreciate you guys. And we have a question. Remember, you guys don't have to do stickers either. You can also ask questions. Question. I find myself sleeping a lot more than normal while gaining muscle. Is this normal? I'll answer this at the end. Yes, this is perfectly normal. When I'm getting jacked, I sleep a lot. It's usually the amount of food you're eating which ends up making you sleep more. So thank you for your question. All right, let's go over to some articles that I wanted to talk about. If Pokrovsk is taken, will it collapse the Donbass front? Also, your most Chad ginger guy I've ever seen. Oh, I'm not a ginger. But yeah, thank you, man. I just have a red beard. I was a blonde. I mean, you can go look at my Instagram. I was blonde. I was very, very blonde. I ain't no gross ginger. I just got red beard. But thank you. If the Pokrovsk front, basically, the way I look at it is, if the Russians are able to reach this, the battle is over, right? So it's not so much about Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, that will come, but if the Russians are able to break through all the way and reach Pokrovsk, like if the battle gets to there, the war is probably over, because the Ukrainians obviously do not have the ability to stem the Russian advance. If the Russians are advancing, and they've reached Pokrovsk and they're behind this line, the Ukrainian army is going to be in such disarray at that point that an organized defense is going to be incredibly difficult. I don't. I think everybody has gotten very comfortable with this rather stable situation that the Ukraine conflict is currently in. And what ends up happening is, as the army deteriorates, that stable situation goes away, and that's what we saw in Ocheretnye. This happened in a day, guys. This town is not a small little joke. I mean, this is a pretty sizable town. It's a very important town in the area. It has an industrial area. It has high-rise buildings over here. I mean, this is not some small feat right here. This is a bigger town than Krasnohorivka, which was a big deal when the Russians took it. It's bigger than any of these towns in this area. Maybe as big as Novoselka over here. About as big as Hordivka back here. So, I mean, this is not a small event. This is a very big deal. And the fact that the Ukrainian brigade that was holding it basically refused to carry out their orders and retreated, that's very significant. That matters a whole lot. 60 billion more of US taxpayer dollars wasted. I guess we can get into that. We'll just get into that. Let's see. All right. Yeah, that's actually one of the articles I wanted to talk about today. So we'll get into that right now. Thank you guys for all of your super stickers and super thanks. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Dodger12. Appreciate you, man. All right. Let's see. What do I want? Always got to think about what I'm doing. I got 1.5 million things going on in my brain at all times. All right. Okay. So this is CNBC. Given a lifeline by the U.S., Ukraine must now prove it can beat the Russians. I want you guys to do a mental exercise with me real fast. Can you guys think back to a time? It was a time not so long ago when I was reading articles of this very same nature. I believe it was the time when the muddy season was just ending, and the Ukrainians had just received a whole bunch of equipment and trained manpower from NATO countries, and it was their time to prove it last summer. You guys recognize the pattern, right? These people are broken clocks. They have no plan. They don't understand what's going on. And now they think that half of what they gave them a year ago is going to somehow change the battlefield. It's very confusing. I don't think that anybody genuinely means Ukraine needs to prove it now. I think everybody fully understands, anybody who's paying attention fully understands the situation that the AFU is in. They don't have manpower. Money doesn't solve the manpower issue. The U.S. can't produce shells the way it needs to. No amount of money is going to change that. These things require time and dedicated effort to fix. The Russians have been doing that for 2.5 years. The Russians didn't just all of a sudden have a military industrial complex that was like humming like a whistle, and a military that was oiled up and just running smooth. That these things take time. The U.S. has not done what it should have done through its peacetime to benefit from the lessons that Russia just learned through blood. And the U.S. is going to have to learn these same lessons here in the future, because they have not increased their artillery shell production. Most of this Ukraine aid bill is supposed to go back into the U.S. military industrial complex. If you guys don't know, it's about $40 billion in total. 21 billion goes just right back into the DoD stocks. So restocking DoD equipment that they've sent to Ukraine. The rest of it, the 21 million, the rest of the 21 million, I think, or 21 billion, sorry, goes to Ukraine in the form of financial aid, about 10 billion, and then 10 billion in weapons. So this is much less than the summer counteroffensive. There is much less equipment and ammunition for the West to even send. No, I don't have a boom arm. I need to get one. Talk like this into my mic. So, you know, it's just the same articles. You just read the same articles over and over and over and over and over again. It's insanity. And I don't know if they're actually expecting something to change or if they're just saving face with these articles and trying to push a narrative. But I've read this a year ago, and back then I said Ukraine isn't going to be able to get through Russian lines of defense. Now I'm saying Ukraine isn't even going to be able to go on the offense. All this package is trying to do is maybe, and I'm saying this, maybe freeze the conflict and buy time for the West. And I don't think the Russians are going to allow that to happen. So I really don't get this aid bill that was sent. It was incredibly goofy. There was a video. Actually, I could probably look it up for you guys, just so you guys can see it. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. This is kind of infuriating. So this. All right. Here we go.
House will be in order. The chair would remind my colleagues to observe properly.
Look at all of these little clowns
on the floor is not.
Sorry.
On this vote, the ayes are 311 and the nays are 112. The bill is passed.
Look at this. Look at these clowns down here.
One voting present. I missed it.
Look at all these clowns. These are U.S. representatives waving Ukrainian flags on the House
will be in order.
I
chair would
man.
remind my colleagues to observe.
I don't know what America
not
I'm living in now. This is unbelievable. We are just sellouts. I mean, like it's ridiculous. They won't wave American flags like that. They will never wave American flags like that. I'm not some like make America great again guy or anything like that. But I mean, come on. These Democrats will wave Ukrainian flags because they just fucking stuff their pockets with all that money. And every one of them just basically earned their reelection because they all just brought a bunch of military industrial complex jobs to their and funding to their congressional districts, or, you know, not their congressional districts, but their districts. The Congress has their congressional districts that do the exact same thing. It's just nonsense. This is the most un-American shit I've ever seen in my entire life. It doesn't serve U.S. interests, and we will look back on this in 30, 40, 50 years. Hopefully we look back on this and go, this was despicable. This was a time when the U.S. leadership was so unbelievably out of touch and greedy, and we're looking at like the collapse of Rome right here. That's what this is. These are all people that are excited about funding a forever foreign war that doesn't need to be happening because they created it, instead of dealing with issues that, you know, will benefit the United States and increase its longevity as a hegemonic power. They're failing. It's so infuriating because I don't mind the idea of U.S. hegemony. It's not great, but if there's going to be a hegemonic power, hey, I'm living here, at least let it be this one, whatever. But you can't even do it right. You can't even be a good hegemony. Like, how? It's so shit. You have everything. You have all of the power. You have all of the cards. You have all of the tricks up your sleeve, and you still fucking sold. Pathetic. It's pathetic. If you're gonna be a belligerent, be the best one around. I don't know. This is sad. It's sad and pathetic. But it's all good. We knew the aid was going to pass. It's fine. I've been saying it for 6 months. I thought it was going to pass in November. This aid's going to pass. The fact that it was delayed so long shows how apathetic the U.S. Political class is or the elite class, I guess, is towards the Ukraine project. They don't want it to pass. This is just all saving face. The Democrats don't want to be blamed when Ukraine collapses. The Republicans don't want to be blamed when the Ukraine collapses. And nobody wants it to collapse before the election. That's all this is. It's so pathetic. This is like losing. It's like instead of losing with grace, you drag it out and you lose slowly and you just pull every tooth and nail that you can to get it done. And it's just, I don't know. It's not the America that I wish I lived in. All right. Nah, man, this is the most American shit we've seen. This Ukraine is the hell the U.S. died on. Game over. Yep, well, that's what I mean. So I'm thinking about it from a pro-America point of view and not a pro-America point of view where I'm like pro what's happening in America right now. No, pro-America is in I want America to be the strongest country in the world, the most morally proper country in the world. That's and it's just we don't do that. And this is a prime example. It's disgusting. It's so bad. It's so bad that the Republicans couldn't even hold their ground to get a border agreement signed. That's that. If you want to know, I mean, at least the Democrats are united in their Ukraine project ideas. The Republicans, the GOP, they can't agree on anything. You have warhawks like Lindsey Graham, who just will vote for everything and push every single foreign conflict and every war. You have that group, and then you have the more liberal or libertarian, that are I don't not libertarian, I guess, but you have like Ron Paul and those guys who are not the warhawks; they're more the doves. And then you have the MAGA, and it's just like there's no cohesion anywhere throughout the entire government structure. There's no bipartisan communication. It's just horrible. This is where we're gonna burn. We're gonna crash and burn, and everybody is so happy about this. And this is just like another tumble down the stairs towards mediocrity. It's sad. If you could meet Zelensky face to face and say anything to him without consequence, as of getting mad, what would you say to him? I would sit down with him in a untapped, unbugged room, and I would have the longest conversation with this human being that I've ever had with any human being on the planet. There are a few people that I want to talk to, and I wouldn't be angry or anything. I'd be genuinely curious about what is going on because there's so many questions about how much control he has, how much say he has. I wonder if he's like just completely stuck. Like this could be the most unfortunate man on the planet who got promoted to this position. I mean, it's Zelensky. They're all corrupt and whatever, and they've been stealing money and all this and that. I'm not absolving him, but also, does he really have a choice? If he says no, does he just die? Because if I was in his position, I would probably I don't know. I morally, I don't want the war to continue, but do I want to die as well? Oh man, that's tough. And so I would just sit down and have a conversation with him about it. And I would just try to get all of the facts and understand his position the best I possibly could. And then I would I would say whatever judgment I had towards him after I got all of the full understanding of the situation. Same goes for Putin. Same goes for Lavrov. I've always wanted, like these are like bucket list people that I want to talk to eventually. I just think that'd be really cool. John Mearsheimer, I also want to talk to. It'd be cool. Just to understand these people for more than just their political image, I think would be interesting. All right. I just want to make sure I got everybody's questions so far. I think so. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are killing it today with the questions and the support. I love you guys. It's awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and get into another article here. I have one more article I want to share. So this is the talk now. Again, we knew this was coming. I had put out a tweet that basically said, I think it was about a year ago, because this conversation comes up frequently, is what will the U.S. have to do? You know, what does the U.S. have to do? What does Europe have to do to keep this war going? And when you are looking at it, it's obvious that the money is not going to solve the issue that Ukraine is facing, and that's manpower, right? How does the West aid Ukraine in alleviating manpower? Well, before they send soldiers, I would think the first thing they would send is, advisors. That's just military. That's what advisors means. I think what they would do first is begin bringing in contractors, and not military contractors, just contractors, to begin replacing the valuable employees that can't be mobilized into the military. That would be the first step. Start bringing in either immigrants or something like that. Just start trying to flood the country with as many people as you can to take away or to free up some sort of manpower. But outside of that, don't know how they're going to get people to come to Ukraine. I'm not saying they're going to be able to do that. That's just a thought I had. The next step would be actually bringing in backline military to cover Ukrainian positions and let Ukrainian military that's perhaps on the west side of the Dnieper River go over to the east side and fight. The Russians have been very clear about this. They will not accept this. They will become instant targets. I don't believe this is a fake red line conversation like they had last time. I think that the calculus for the Russians has changed so much, as it's such a dramatic shift from where all that red line talk was, with before the Crimean Bridge was hit and stuff like that. We are in a completely different war now. This is a completely different scenario. The Russians are acting completely different towards Ukraine. It seems like they're going to achieve their goals through military means now, and they're not looking at negotiations at all. Whereas I would say for the last year and a half, they have been looking for negotiations up until the counteroffensive. Right after the counteroffensive, I think that all that talk kind of stopped. All right, I got another question here. If Medvedev was president, would he deal with Ukraine more harshly, considering the language he's using? I think that he's just more of the unhinged, barking dog of the Kremlin right now. He's kind of the uncensored voice, and he says the more radical things that I think the Kremlin would like to say sometimes, and put out threats and do this sort of thing, but they need to be diplomatic in how they approach things. So I think that he's sort of an outlet. I think that if he was president, he would be acting much like Putin. He might be a little bit more aggressive, but I think that he would be much more conservative in his actions, just considering that he's president. And, there comes a lot of responsibility comes with being a president. You can't just walk around saying all the nonsense that he says regularly. All right. But yeah, so, this is just going to become a more and more frequent topic. How do we prevent Ukraine from losing? How do we prevent Ukraine from losing? What can we send them? They've sent everything that they can basically send. They're talking about sending some more ATACMs. There's just nothing that's going to change the situation on the ground. And that's because the Ukrainian army has a massive deficiency in artillery shells and manpower. And the only way you can solve that is by bringing in your own armies. Everybody's made it very clear, except Macron, that their armies are not going to step foot. So these advisors will likely just stay advisors. But remember, advisors is how Vietnam started. So, yeah. Yes, I do believe the Kharkov offensive is coming. I'm actually going to take us over to my profile and show you, or my Twitter profile, and show you guys some of my bookmarks that I have saved. And there is actually part of that. So we'll get right into that. So will there be a Kharkov offensive? Yes, I think so, for a couple of reasons. Number one, today we saw a TV and radio tower in the region get attacked. The last time we saw this was when the Russians went into Kiev. We've also had reports that the Russians are demining the Sumy and Kharkov regions, which would be a very clear indication that they're preparing for offensive operations. They had already basically told the Ukrainians that they were going to do this. They said that they were going to create a sanitary zone around the Russian border that is 100 kilometers to protect it from, MLRS shelling and stuff like that. I believe it's going to be much more than 100 kilometers, but 100 kilometers is where you start. And I do believe that this is going to happen this summer. I do believe it's going to happen in conjunction with a push towards Pokrovsk in the south and continued pressure in the directions of Chasiv Yar and Seversk. So, yes, be on the lookout. I mean, this was today. So the FAB strikes up there have been nonstop. If you guys go and look at the air raid map, if you just go in and type on in Google Ukraine air raid map, you can pull it up here. It looks something like this, and there's something actually going on. I don't know what is happening right now, but I can see for you guys just so I can tell you. Let's see. Ballistic missiles from the north. And explosions in Kharkov. There we go. So as we're speaking, ballistic missiles are landing in Kharkov. It's been happening nonstop. Same with glide bombs, just daily, just going. I do believe they're trying to depopulate this area with their infrastructure strikes, with this new TV strike. They're taking out basically essential communications and stuff like that. I do believe that they're trying to reduce the civilian, just get them to go to another part of Ukraine while the battle takes place in Kharkov. I think that this is the goal. And I think you're going to continue to see this until the operation begins, strikes like this. And then just on the Ocheretnye conversation, I just wanted to talk about this. Here we have a guy. I'm just going to read this. The Russians were yesterday on the outskirts of Ocheretnye. The drastic advancement of the Russians became possible because of certain units just fucked off positions. Hope they get trained and retained into hope they get trained and retrained into stormtroopers. So the 115th Mechanized Brigade abandoned their positions in Ocheretnye. The Ukrainian commentators are very, very frustrated and upset with this. So they brought back in the 47th. The 47th couldn't handle their business because of the situation. And here's another Ukrainian talking about it from the 79th. All right. So they're in Nikolaev, or they're stationed in Nikolaev. The machine builder is no longer ours on the western outskirts of Novomihailovka. I'm sorry. This is about Novomihailovka. So this is another situation where the Ukrainians are upset. They're talking about how Novomihailovka fell and how basically the situation is difficult. Someone will have to take responsibility for making difficult decisions. So the whole line is backing up. The situation's getting worse, and the Ukrainians are they're taking very clear notice of what's going on here. All right. Is that it? Is that all I wanted to show you? Yeah, that's all I wanted to show on the Twitter. So, all right, I'll get to some of these questions here. Let's see. This one. Kalibrated. Which training and nutrition plan would you recommend for Victoria Newland to achieve the cookie diet, bro? Come on, dude. That is peak Victoria Newland. Box under her fucking stomach, Victoria Newland handing out cookies. Cookies. The souls of brown children that you maybe existentially is not the right word. Let's think. Through her actions, those children die in faraway places, and she gains their life force. So that you have to do that too. And I don't know if you can manage that. Seems kind of shady. But yeah, that's how you maintain power like that. Was the Israel funding approved? Yes, all three fundings were approved. The Israel funding, the Ukraine funding and the Taiwan funding, all of which still need to pass in the Senate, but they most likely will. So, all right. You can't feed her white babies. If you feed her white babies, then there's like the guilt aspect, and then she has to make a public apology because they were white. It's a whole thing. Ugh. It's like 40,000 Palestinians die. It's no big deal, but then 7 white people die, and it's the end of the world. It's just a joke, man. All right. If you guys have questions, go ahead and get some questions in. I think I'm pretty much done. Yeah, I've gone over everything I wanted to cover today. Go ahead and get some questions in, guys. I'll talk to you for a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up. I don't know if anyone ate Newland's cookies, but I bet no one. You guys are gross. Don't even think about that. It's just like a grandma. Calibrated. Dodgers, you missed. What's up with the Chechens? Hunting Georgians. The Chechens are, I believe they're up in the north. They were up fighting against all of the Russian Foreign Legion guys that were coming in. So if a Kharkov operation begins, you may see some of the Chechen guys come in. That's where they were stationed, the Akhmat guys. All right. What did I train today? I haven't trained yet. I'm going to train right after this chest today. Also titties. All right. As an ethnic Russian citizen from Ukraine with family living on all sides, what happened in Congress betrayed me in every possible way. I believe you mean the House, but yes, I agree. It's sad. It just, at this point, it's not about helping Ukraine, and that's the unfortunate part. Is if they were actually trying to help Ukraine and they were trying to do the right thing, you could at least make an argument that it's like, at least they're trying to stick by their promises and stuff. But if this doesn't help anything, it will provide hope to the Ukrainian leadership that they'll be able to survive this, and it just extends the war. And I don't know. I can't, man. Thank you for your comment, though, good sir. All right. When is this conflict going to end? Do you think the Crimean Bridge is going to be destroyed? I think the Ukrainians are definitely going to try. I don't think destroying the Crimean Bridge does anything anymore. There is multiple railway connections through the south of the country that have been complete. So the bridge, the whole point of capturing Crimea and going up into Kherson and making the land bridge and capturing Mariupol was exactly for this reason, so that the bridge cannot be targeted and interrupt supply to, Novorossiya, I guess, is what you would call it. So yeah, I honestly think that the Crimean Bridge will be destroyed, especially if if the Ukrainians get ATACMS. Yeah, I think that they'll definitely waste every single thing they have for that propaganda win, and they'll probably get it, and it won't change anything. And I'll be sitting here saying that, and everybody will come in and say cope, 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 and then 6 months later, I'll repost it. I'll requote my own tweet and I'll say, was it cope? Because it didn't feel like cope. Nothing changed. Any tips on growing chest muscle? I do a lot and get no improvement. Flat bench improves, but not incline. So stop flat benching. Just stop. Don't flat bench anymore. It's a waste of time. Do plate press, dumbbell press, and incline barbell is what I like to do. Incline barbell. And what I would do is, first off, I would change up your workout entirely, change up the rep range, change up the weight. Have you tried smoking a little marijuana before you go into the gym? One of the things that really helped me in my bodybuilding, I had a lack of mind-muscle connection in a lot of different areas of my body. And when I smoked weed, it really makes you like hyper focus on every single muscle fiber that you're moving. So that helps, not all the time, just every now and then, just to get a different feel for a workout. And then my other suggestion would be go up to the biggest guy in your gym and ask to hit a workout with him sometime and grow your chest. because the only way you're going to really figure out that you're not working out hard and you're kind of a pussy is when you work out with somebody who's really much bigger than you and they completely fuck your world up. And then, you improve from there. Sorry, guys. This went from Ukraine news to bro chat. But, comes with the territory. Anybody else ask any questions? Let's see. I don't see, and this is hilarious. People come in here and then they say the crew lived. And that's so funny because the only time I say that is when the crew actually lives. And I post it for important reasons because it matters if you lose a crew. A crew is much more valuable than an aircraft or a ship or something like that. So yeah, that one will never make sense to me. Why ban them? They're kind of funny. You just ignore them. I mean, they're not like everybody gets like so like block happy and stuff. I mean, I get it. You don't want to see people. And if somebody's really irritating me or they just post like absolute garbage, then I'll block them. But I mean, this person is in here, like this person right here. Wait, where was it? Yeah, this person right in here. Look at, have you thought the bigger you get, the smaller your pee-pee looks? Yes, I'm pretty sure every guy thinks that. Do I care? No. Why are you talking about my dick? I know, and it's so funny because, if anybody doesn't know, I just got doxxed again. I do live streams every day talking to a camera like this, but yeah, you doxxed me. They got a hold of my old Facebook from when I was 12 and my Instagram, and they started posting the pictures in like a chat and everything. And apparently this guy had already kind of doxed himself, but didn't know it. And a whole thread came out about him, and he was a gay escort living in the UK. So I'm pretty sure now I've figured it out. All of you are just closeted homosexual men, and all you want to do is obsess over my pristine body. And that's okay. That's okay. Listen, I don't blame you. Everybody's got their things that they're after, and I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you for engaging with me. Thank you for showing up and giving me views and spreading this to people. And thank you. I wonder what it says about them that they can't. Yeah, I know exactly, bro. It never ends, dude. It never ends. I literally have a girlfriend who is awesome, fantastic, lover, right? But I've also been extremely, what would you call it? What is it when a woman is like, or when somebody's like promiscuous? You always use it for women, but I've been extremely sexually promiscuous. So I'm sure any of you can go find any of the girls that I've talked to, do a little Oznet work, bros, and go find some of the girls that I've had sex with and ask them. Like, honestly, it's not difficult. It's not difficult, boys. I love it, dude. I love it. It's so funny that that's the thing that they harp on too. They keep harping on it. They just keep harping on it, and they think it gets under my skin, and it's just not reality. And so it's hilarious that they've been trying to get me with that for 2 years, and I have a girlfriend, dude. Even if my dick was this big, right? I'm still more successful with women than you. So how unfortunate is that? Holy shit, dude. If I'm getting it done with this, how pathetic are you? All right, guys, that's where I'm going to wrap it up today. Thank you so much. I had to get my shit talk in. If you guys want to support me, all you have to do is like, subscribe, leave a comment under this too. It helps a lot. And if you would like to support me, you can follow me on Twitter, Telegram, and then financially, obviously, always super thanks, super chat, super sticker is amazing. And Patreon. Sorry, there's too many things to remember, guys. I love you all, even the ones that just want to talk about my penis. You guys are my biggest fans, and I love you the most. Take care, everybody. Until tomorrow, have a good one.